Hello everyone. Today we will be talking about our paint program, arguably our smallest program, but an important one nonetheless. I invite all of you to take your copies of your catalogs out and follow along as we look at the pages one by one. Mark?
Thank you, Danny. So to start with, if you were to open up your first page to page number 2, you would see that the top portion of it talks about drop sheets. So what is a drop sheet? First of all, we talk about properties of absorption. This is made of natural cotton. Why natural? Because natural cotton, well, for all intents and purposes, is not very absorbent. It is made specifically for the paint to drop onto it and kind of sit there and dry a little, like absorbing just a slight amount into the wiper, into the drop sheet itself, into the cotton. It's made of 100% cotton, and it is a very heavy towel, a heavy material. It is made of a drill cotton. The way it's woven is very tight so that the paint will not penetrate. And in this particular case, it is made from an 8 ounce. What does 8 ounce mean? It's 8 ounces per square yard. So if you were to weigh a square yard of this, it would take 2 square yards to make 1 pound. That is what this material is made of. It is the industry standard. 8 ounces is a good drop sheet. So we carry it in different sizes to cover different surfaces. In this particular case, you have a small job cloth. It's meant to go down in a small area. Put your paint can down, put your tray of paint down for doing the rolling, and keep that particular small area safe. We'd also carry it in what we call a hall runner size, which is 4 feet wide by 12 feet long, basically the length of a standard hall. We have it in a 10 by 11, 10 feet by 11 feet, which is the standard size of your bedroom, and then a 12 by 15 for your bigger living rooms and dining rooms. So those are the standard sizes. There are other options out there, and we basically have limited down to that. There is, for instance, a 4 by 20 you'll see out in the marketplace. We are considering looking at that. If you have opportunities with bigger sizes or odd sizes, let us know. We can probably answer those requests.
So Mark, who uses these drop cloths?
Oh, anything to do with painting contractors. That is, they lay it down before they do the painting to protect the surfaces, the floors that they're working on. Building maintenance people. One of the areas that is not exploited enough is service people. Our 4x12 service towel, or our 4x12 hall runners are used by service people, for instance, the heating people or anybody who comes into your home to service an appliance. They come in with dirty boots. They'll put these things down before they start running up and down your service. Rather than taking their boots off, this way they can go in and out of the house very easily. They pick it up before they leave. They launder it at their own locations, and then come back and have a nice sheet for the next time. So basically painting contractors and service people that need to protect the surfaces that they're working on.
Also, something that's very important about these is that we offer them in a private label format. This allows for some of our clients to get their names and promote their own brand on the product itself. So if you have any clients who are interested, there are minimum MOQs, meaning minimum order quantities, to be able to get that, but they are relatively small.
Good. So moving on, if you go to the bottom of the page, the first page, your second page, you will see painter's rags. In general, a painter's rag is used to be lint-free, so it doesn't leave behind any residue, and relatively absorbent, so that whatever you're trying to pick up gets picked up easily. And in this particular case, Danny's showing you an 8-piece bag of our premium JTWW, so jersey, thin, white washed, so our premium quality mill end, that was put into a bag in 8 pieces and offered in the marketplace. It is by far our most popular type of wiper at the retail level, for the simple fact that it is a new material and can offer consistency and in nice packaging. It's also available in a colored, so for those who want to have a more economical version. For applications where they're not using chemicals, the colored version is also available. And the 4-piece pound, the 4-pound bag, which we looked at in our rag training, is very popular in this particular instance as well. On page number 3, it starts off with shop towels. In the retail market, sometimes they'll call them painter's towels. It is the same product we've been talking about right from the very beginning in terms of what is the industry standard, just put into a retail pack. So whether it be a 10-piece pack, or 30-piece pack, or a 50-piece pack, this is also complements the program in the paint industry, and it is why it's being offered in here. So it's a bit of a duplication, but a necessary one.
So Mark, just a little caveat here. We offer shop towels or painter's towels to our clients where they have the option to renting them. Can you quickly go through the difference between renting a shop towel and actually purchasing it?
Sure. Well, in this particular case, a rental shop towel is used, brought back to the laundry, laundered, and brought back to service the client another time. Usually a rental shop towel will last somewhere between 10 and 20 washes before it is worn out and has to be thrown out. But there's a lot of costs involved in a rental shop towel. You have a premium product, you have a bordered 100% cotton towel, which we consider to be the industry standard. However, first of all, it's subject to whatever contaminants it's been exposed to before. So whether it be oil or grease or ink or paint, those contaminants are in the shop towel when it's brought back to the laundry. It is laundered, but let's face it, it's not going to completely come clean. As you go to your second usage and third uses and fourth uses, that shop towel becomes more and more contaminated, and the residue of those contaminations are brought back to you each time you go to use it. And therefore, it cannot be considered to be a completely clean towel. In this particular case, we are offering a completely clean towel, pre-washed, ready to use right out of the bag, at a price that is obviously more expensive than a standard jersey rag, but it has the component of being reusable in the sense that it has the edging, that's, you know, the sewing along the edges so it can be washed. And it is the premium towel, and that is 100% cotton and offers all the aspects of 100% cotton performance. So I think that explains it in general. There's a lot more involved in trying to calculate the cost of a rental shop towel versus, say, a rag, and we'll get into that another time. But in general, this is, you know, the access of a DIY, a do-it-yourselfer, to a shop towel. This is the one area from a retail point of view that they have access to this premium towel without having to rent it. So it gives them the option of getting that premium towel at a price that's reasonable without renting. If we go to the second section, the bottom part of this page, actually now the page numbers show up. Here's page number 2. Stain application from, we talked about our standard rags used in staining on a regular basis. In this particular case, we've set up a retail package for staining where you have our premium JTW product in a 4-piece bag geared specifically to the staining industry, where you can create those surfaces with the perfect rag without any seams, lint-free, and it's basically geared towards a guy who wants to have the premium product for staining, obviously identifying that application with the retail packaging.
So Mark, before we go forward, can you explain exactly what is staining?
Well, staining is the, if you were to take a course on staining, they might show you different ways of staining. Basically, it's bringing, creating a raw wood surface where you remove any contaminants by sanding it down, creating a nice smooth surface, removing the any contaminants with, say, a tack cloth, which we'll talk about again in a moment or two, with a resin-treated cloth that removes any contaminants. And then so you have a nice clean surface and you're applying a color. something, a penetrating stain will go into the grain of the wood, bring out the grain, show the grain of the wood, and change the color, or at the very worst, have a clear stain where the grain is just enhanced. When you put down stain, you don't want it to. You want to control the color by applying the stain and removing it before it penetrates too deeply, or changes the color by having too much stain in one particular area. So you apply the stain and then remove the excess with the rag so that it controls the color. By letting it stay on there a certain amount of time before removing it, you can get deeper colors or lighter colors in that fashion.
And that's very important because in North America, believe it or not, there is still a pretty important furniture manufacturing industry in this country, both in Canada and in the United States. So if you have clients that do furniture manufacturing with natural woods, as Mark said, the staining industry and the products that come with it, the products that we offer are of high interest to them.
So to take it to the next level, we talked about the rag itself for removing the stain. There's also a technique called ragging, where you're applying the stain with the rag. Now that technique is really old school, and it's been replaced by a variety of different applicators. Sometimes it's a brush. In our case, we've started providing stain applicators in this format, whether it be the smaller 4x4 version or the 6x4 version. What this is a Barbie pillow. I'm sorry, that's what my daughter calls it. But the Barbie pillow evolved into a stain applicator over time because we had access to this material from our knitters here in Montreal. And we took that material and we're selling it as rags, and we found that a lot of the stainers liked it. And we found that by wrapping that material in a sponge, these organizations were able to bring a lot of stain to the surface, these wood surfaces, natural wood surfaces, and cover them a great deal, very, very quickly by bringing a lot of stain to it. And the properties of the knitted terry was such that it's a high density knitted terry, and when a sponge is put in there, it will wick the stain evenly onto the surface as it's being applied. And so you're able to cover large surfaces in a very quick amount of time and have a nice even coat of that stain onto the wood with these staining tools, these hand staining tools. And we carry it in both a 6x4x1 as well as a 4x4x1. And the 4x4x1 is by far the most popular because it basically covers the hand. And you put on a disposable glove, stick your hand into the stain, squeeze it out a little bit to get the excess out, and then boom, off you go. You cover the surface, and then you take your lint-free rag and remove the excess stain as you go forward. And it's a tool that is well received in the industry.
And we offer it in the industrial pack, which is the 12 pack, geared towards those furniture shops that are going to be using it day in, day out. We also offer it in the retail pack format, which is a 2-pack. That's also offered for all of our retail clients. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but couldn't we also, unlike a rag, save these by putting them in a Ziploc bag and reusing them and coming back to them?
Yeah, the industry is, they're all about, saving money. It's a very competitive industry, and anytime they can take one of these products and reuse it, they do. So what I see often is a saturated sponge inside of a Ziploc bag. So as long as it doesn't dry out, it is reusable. And they tend to, when they use it the second time round or the third time round, they go to a darker color so that it doesn't contaminate the color that they're going to.
The darker stain.
The darker stain, exactly. So the last retail pack that we have is called a job pack. It carries a pair of gloves, a lint-free rag, and one stain applicator pad so that anybody who wants to do a small application of staining can buy this. They have everything they need to take that stain and apply it and create a really nice finish.
And of course, all of these packagings will be changed to meet the new standard of all of Wipeco's products. So while quantities last, we are still on the old packaging, but the new will be coming very shortly.
So page number 3, the last page of the staining program, has some of the sundries that we carry. So the first item happens to be our faux finish sponge. This is a synthetic sponge. It is 360-degree usable, unlike what it's supposed to replace is a natural sea sponge. So first of all, we're not killing anything. We don't go to the bottom of the ocean and kill a plant in order to create a faux finish. And secondly, the faux finish sponges, the natural sponges, tend to have only about 30% of it usable because of its odd shapes. This is 360 degree, give you that faux finish. And you can cut this up and it'll still stay strong. It's made of reticulated foam, which basically means if you try and stretch that or break it apart, it'll stay together very nicely. So a nice substitute to a natural sea sponge, ecologically friendly. Then we also carry the standard cleanup sponge. So some people call it a wallpaper sponge. You're basically using it for your sopping up or soaking a wallpaper before you need to remove it. The basic cellulose is the industry standard. We also have the spray paint hood. This is very popular in anybody who's used the mechanical spray paint for ceilings, for anything like that. You put that to protect your head. It's breathable, so people like it. It's also an amazing option when people are using coveralls, disposable coveralls. Instead of putting that hood over your head where it doesn't breathe, you now have an option that's breathable and it'll pretty well do the same job.
And it's a one size because it's cotton, it's fairly elastic, it'll fit pretty much anybody.
Yeah, so we talked about the rib knit and how it has a mechanical stretch to it. This is basically the same idea. It's made from rib knit material and it has that mechanical stretch, so one size fits all. You know, if you have a big head of hair, it might be a different story, but you will usually work. So we talked about tack cloth as being a prep tool. When you're doing staining on natural wood, usually you sand down the wood before you stain it. And this tool is basically a resin-treated cheesecloth that you use before, as a prep tool before you go to stain. You remove all the particles that are left from the sanding process by using the stain, the tack cloth.
So essentially, it's kind of like a sticky sponge that absorbs or attracts all of the dust to make sure that once we stain our product, there isn't any dust left over. Because for those of you who have tried staining, if you leave dust onto the wood and apply stain on it, it won't give you a smooth finish. It'll be like grainy as far as your finish. So it's very important, especially in the manufacturing industry, that you remove all the dust before you proceed with the staining.
Professional stainers sometimes put 2 or 3 coats of stain onto a really high-end piece of furniture. In between those coats, they sand it down and they need to remove the particles that are created when sanding it. And that is a tool that is, when you're manufacturing high-end wood furniture, a tack cloth is a basic standard tool for that. We also have cheesecloth. Cheesecloth is basically in the painting industry used for either applying stain, like we talked about, there's different ways of applying. The cheesecloth can give a faux finish. Because of the texture, it will give a bit of a different finish with the stain and allow for certain streaking and things that you're trying to get with a faux finish. So it's a faux finish tool. It is also a straining product. So when you're using old paint and you want to get those little chunks out of it, it can be used over the spray can, over the can of paint that you pour to remove the chunks and allow just the paint to go through. So that's for cheesecloth.
And as for cheesecloth, Mark, can you explain? Sometimes I've seen, cheesecloth that say number 10
Yes.
or number 50 or number 80. What do those numbers mean?
So in this particular case, this cheesecloth is what we call a number 10. The retail pack that we have here is the only version we carry for retail purposes. The number 10 refers to the number of threads per square inch. In this case, it's a 12 by 24 or 12 by 20 thread count. So 12 threads in this direction, 20 threads in this direction, giving an open weave finish. This is the lightest cheesecloth we carry. We carry 2 other versions. We carry what we call a number 50 and a number 80. In each case, the higher the number, the denser the material becomes, giving you more of a better filtering process, Or it's almost like, in the case of the number 80, it's like having a standard textile product where it's woven so tight it's almost like having a cloth.
So the higher the number, the less spacing there is in between each thread.
Correct. Yeah. Again, the thread count is what counts. So in the case of the number 10, it's 12 by 20. In the case of a number 50, it could be like a 24 by 36. And then in the case of an 80, I think it's like a 36 by 48. So very, very tight thread count. And you'll see it's not only used in the painting industry, cheesecloth, you'll also see it, for instance, in high-end restaurants where they're poaching. And usually the most popular one is the number 50, where they'll wrap, for instance, a salmon in that, put it into water with their spices, and then basically boil it or poach the salmon. And then it stays together because of the cheesecloth. They unwrap it, present it as a full fish in some high-end restaurants. One example of what cheesecloth can be used for. So we have next in line a little bit of gloves and a little bit of rags. Those are covered in other sections, so this completes the painting section for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.